It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'm going to be your host this morning. But think of it, I'm your host every morning. We do this radio program 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. We broadcast live at 8 a.m. We carry that program through till about 9:45, commercial free. We do take a couple of breaks in between to allow the commercials to be inserted later, but you don't have to suffer through them, shall we say. We do have an opportunity for you to find the program not only on audio, but also on video on our website. You can visit us there at americasvoicenow.org. You can also find our program where it's broadcast live, and that is on an audio podcast that is run on Patriot FB. That's Patriot, F like Foxtrot, B like Bravo. Join over at patriotfb.com. It's kind of like a Facebook website where you can join with other like-minded individuals. And second website that carries our program, constitutionclub.ning.com. Constitution Club has a great program where they have a mini website for every one of the counties in the United States of America. There are approximately 32 or 3,300 of them. And so it gives you an opportunity to meet other local folks in your community area that you can network with. Also, the Citizens Action Network proudly supports and carries AVN material. We'd like you to participate with those folks as well. So we also broadcast the program at midnight to 2 a.m., and that's broadcast on Big Country 99. That's Rooster Radio here in south central Missouri. It's located out of Houston, Missouri, and they broadcast the program from midnight to 2 a.m., and there's a ton of listeners out there. This is a country western type station, and then at night, everybody takes off their cowboy hats and their ball caps, and we put on tri-corner Patriot hats. You got to love that. So that's the base of America, folks. That's the core. That's the rock-solid foundation of this country. That's the truth. We're going to cover 4 topics this morning. Breaking news, the EPA has gone rogue, as if that's news, but it gets worse. They actually have a private secret police organization, and according to their own inspector general, they have been out there actively seeking to undermine investigations and to obstruct investigations into the EPA's activities. Ladies and gentlemen, this is unconscionable. And I mean, the EPA is guilty of a lot of sin. But this one has a whole different tenor and tone to it. Let's mark this one up as scandal, 275, maybe 288, 200, maybe 350, I don't know. There's so many scandals in this administration, you can't keep track of them all. But this president has created a rogue law enforcement agency dubiously called Homeland Security. Not to be confused with the other Homeland Security. No, I'm not kidding you. That is functioning directly under directly under the White House. And I got to tell you, when you hear this story, the top of your head's going to come off. Our second topic. Hillary Clinton says guns must be reined in. And New Jersey follows orders. Their Senate committee just passed a limitation on 22 rifles. Yep, 22s. The endearing plinker rifle of every family, the learning tool of every young boy and girl who's learning how to safely handle a firearm, how to fire and shoot, the bang stick that every kid has ever hunted a squirrel with, I mean, it's just ridiculous. And they're harking it back based upon an argument that they can make for Clifford, who got shot in Arizona how many years ago? I mean, I'll tell you what. I'm so sick and tired of knee-jerk reactions from elitists, statists, and self-serving scum. I could vomit. Our third topic, ethanol. Another EPA mandate. I guess I should have had this behind the EPA segment. It destroys engines. It raises prices. It ruins farming. And it's a cause of global starvation. So why are we promoting it? I mean, what's in this deal with ethanol? Why are we ruining our engines? For what? We're going to talk about it, and you're going to find out some stuff you didn't know. Segment 4. The VA whistleblowers are exposing murder. And I'm using the term in its truest sense. I mean it literally. The VA whistleblowers have come out and they have exposed murder. It hasn't been called that yet. You watch and see. We need more of those. We need more whistleblowers just like these brave souls. Kudos to these people who are coming out of the VA and exposing this. But we need them in every administrative agency in the nation. We need stalwart Americans who are willing to stand up and say, I'm sorry, but even at the cost of my own safety, even at the cost of my own fiscal or financial obligations and my own fiscal health, I'm going to do the right thing. That's what makes a patriot. In the beginning, the patriot is hated and scorned. But when he succeeds, the others join him because then it costs nothing to be a patriot. Mark Twain. All right, let's get into our first story. I got to tell you, folks, this is just over the top. The EPA is being investigated by their own inspector general. Every agency, just for the record, so you understand what this is, every agency has an inspector general. And the job of the inspector general is like internal affairs, okay? And so these people are, essentially work for the organization. They are supposed to be visible to, or everything is supposed to be visible to them so that they can do oversight from within. Because, Congress isn't sitting there every day in headquarters listening to the plotting and the planning and the scheming and the conniving and the skullduggery going on in literally thousands of federal and state agencies. So every agency has an IG. One of the biggest problems is, as an example, Department of Homeland Security's IG is actually being accused of being so cozy with the executive heads of that agency that it's not doing its job. Not surprising there. That's why I have called for a slightly different program, and I don't want to get off on a side tangent here, but I have called for a citizens ombudsman. And so you understand what that is. That's an IG that works for us, not for government. And I'd actually pay taxes for that. Okay? These are citizens who have 100% full security clearance and access to everything. And they work alongside the AG in a rotating schedule, so nobody gets a chance to be bought off, corrupted, misused, abused, what have you. And they don't report back to Congress. They report straight to us. I'm all for that. And I guarantee you we'd see a cleanup movement that would sweep this nation. You'd see fraud. You'd see abuse. You'd see waste. You'd see corruption. You'd see bribery. Stop. Guaranteed. Because heads would start to roll. Imagine an ombudsman who would come out and say, yesterday, I closed an investigation that I've been doing independently that says XYZ or so-and-so within this administrative agency has been abusing their authority. Wow. I mean, let's just call it like it is. No political doublespeak, no, nonsense. Just call it like it is. I'll volunteer. I'll be one of the first ones. Fox News has an article out there. Rogue agency? ? EPA is under fire for allegedly obstructing investigations. Well, Fox News has severely understated this headline. And it would be funny if we weren't talking about the future of private land ownership, private property ownership, both base tenets of our constitutional framework and our Republican form of government, the destruction of whole industries and literally tens of millions of jobs, the ruination of our nation's energy mechanical systems, and the open and enterprising free market that feeds it, and the cavalier abasement of our entire constitutional foundation. About the only thing these people haven't abused is the Second Amendment, which if they had any opportunity to, you can bet your bottom dollar they'd have their thumb in that pie too. But they block free speech. They violate your Fourth Amendment. They violate your Fifth Amendment. They don't give you a jury trial. You go before an administrative law judge who hears you but works for them. What do you think he's going to find? I'll lay bets on that one, and I'm not even a gambler. It gets worse. All of this while they're running a secret police force. Secret police. That their own, and by the way, for the record, their secret police force is called Homeland Security. Now, it's not to be confused with the other treasonous Homeland Security, the one that has literally 22 agencies underneath it, the too big to fail Homeland Security. This is a different Homeland Security that works directly for the White House. And here's the worst part. It's wreaking equal havoc among the nation wherever it can go. There are 10 employees run directly from the White House, but overseen by the tyrantress who runs the EPA. And even their own IG, their own inspector general, calls them a, quote, rogue law enforcement agency. Wow. That, ladies and gentlemen, scandal what? 369? The office has 10 employees, and it's overseen by the EPA administrator, Gina McCarthy's office. And the Inspector General's office is accusing her and her office of operating illegally as a rogue law enforcement agency. Now, this is the little-known office of Homeland Security within the EPA. Excuse me? Clarify for me what the EPA and Homeland Security have to do with each other. That's kind of an oxymoron. I mean, the two aren't even connected in any way, shape, and form. One is not security. One is supposed to be environmental protection, not national security. This rogue law enforcement agency, and those aren't my words, those are the words of their own Inspector General, has impeded independent investigations into employee misconduct, computer security, external threats, including compelling employees involved in cases to sign non-disclosure agreements under duress. Now, anyone who understands contract law knows that any contract signed under duress is invalidated. You can't hold a gun to someone's head and say, sign over your real estate to me. Give me the title to your car. Because all that person has to do is go to court and say, but he held a gun to my head to make me sign it. Of course I signed it. The option was die. The contract is immediately invalidated. And so should every non-disclosure agreement by every agency in the nation, because they're all signed under duress. If you're threatened with your job and the livelihood of your children, maybe your own personal safety, who isn't going to sign? This is Sullivan, Patrick Sullivan, and he's the IG. Listen to what he has to say, and this is his quote. This isn't my words. Under the heavy cloak of national security, the Office of Homeland Security within the EPA has repeatedly rebuffed and refused to cooperate with the OIG's, that's the Office of Inspector General's, ongoing requests for information or cooperation. This block unquestionably has hamstrung the Office of Inspector General's ability to carry out its statutory mandate to investigate wrongdoing of EPA employees. Now, this is going to be a hearing, I think it's today, actually. And here's the problem. Well, I just outlined the problem. Here's the problem. This Inspector General is basically saying that he cannot do his job because the EPA is doing everything in its power to prohibit and bar and block him from the required and mandated, congressionally ordered duty that he has. Now, this is why I tell you, folks, that an ombudsman needs to be brought into play here. And it should be on every agency, state and federal. Think of it this way. Here's how the ombudsman program would work, and then I'm going to digress because I don't want to get into this whole thing. I've outlined this entire thing before in a program. But here's the way it should work. A group of citizens get together and form a committee nationally. And this committee is made up of retired and retired individuals who are, for all intents and purposes, willing to go in there and for the cost of their expenses to be covered and maybe a very, very minor stipend, spend their time overseeing and looking over the shoulder of every one of these agencies that's out there. And they don't report straight to Congress. They don't report to the government. They report to us through a website, the Civilian Ombudsman Program. There you go. They have 100% clearance, and in fact, you can even get people who have come from walks of life where they would ordinarily understand the implications and the job duties and the functions and the mechanics of each agency's job. So if you've got somebody who needs to look out for the EPA or be an ombudsman for the EPA, then they should have a background that enables them to understand what the EPA's function and role allegedly is. I'm telling you right now it's unconstitutional, but we can't get rid of them until we can prove to America that they are our oppressor and not our savior. The best way to prove that they're your oppressor is to have an ombudsman program that comes out here and exposes them daily in the press, in the media. And if the media and the press won't cover it, that's fine. America will begin to look at the ombudsman program just like the Drudge Report. You log on there, and there's an ombudsman report from the FCC, another one from the EPA, another one from the USDA, another one from the FAA, another one from this agency, Border Patrol, or that agency. You want to see how fast America takes notice? You want to put the Drudge Report's numbers to shame? There you go. This thing will have 1 billion hits a year just from people who are trying to find out what's really happening. They can be funded through even voluntary donations. Let's not make it a tax because then they're employed by the government. Let's do it as a voluntary donation. How's that? Only open to individuals. No corporations, no PACs, none of that. I mean, this is a system that makes sense. Why? Because the Inspector General is, for all intents and purposes, barred. I'm telling you, when I'm talking about an ombudsman, I'm talking about a guy who's got the key to the office of the head of the EPA. And he can walk through and rifle through her desk and her files any dagnab time he feels like it. It's time we took the country back. And that's the way to do it. The Inspector General, Arthur Elkins, Jr., was appointed to lead the office by Obama in 2010. However, it's an independent office within the agency expected to be outside of political influence. Yeah, right. Come on. See, that's the point. There is no such thing as outside of political influence if they work for the government. If they're paid by federal government, that's it. It's done. There's no objectivity, and there's no accountability. Even if they have the right intention, it's always hanging in the back of their mind. Well, how's this going to affect my career? That's why I want retired people. They don't have a career motive. It's disturbing that even investigations by this administration's own nonpartisan watchdogs are being blocked by political appointees, said House Oversight Darrell Issa. EPA's Office of Homeland Security was set up in 2003 by an administrative order, executive administrative order, and has no statutory authority to conduct investigations or to enforce the law. Doesn't matter, and it doesn't mean that they're not. Sullivan's opinion is backed up by a staffer in the Office of Compliance and Enforcement Assurance, but the agency has not issued a legal opinion on the office's role. Since July of 2012, in an agreement with the FBI, it has been the primary contact on all investigations with a connection to national security. The dispute between the Inspector General's office and Homeland Security office came to a head last year. Republicans in Congress investigated the agency's handling of John Beale, a former deputy assistant administrator, pled guilty in federal court to stealing $886,000 between 2000 and April 2013, claiming he was working undercover for the CIA, and the EPA knew it the whole time he wasn't, and they never investigated to verify he wasn't. The Beale case was initially investigated by Homeland Security office months before the IG's office was made aware of it. Here's the point. Ladies and gentlemen, the EPA needs to be disbanded, as does the other Homeland Security. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying at all. The other Homeland Security is just as bad. This is the agency that's too big to fail. The irony of this statement should be lost on no one, by the way. They are the root cause of most of the law enforcement militarization that's happening today in the United States. And they are the private army, 22 agencies underneath the massive umbrella of DHS. They are the private army that Obama promised that he would utilize to sidestep the public issue of the prohibition under posse comitatus. And they are fast becoming the secret police of our nation, the KGB, the Stasi. Any president, Congress, or judge that is worth their salt would immediately disband this entire operation. The truth is, America, we're all going to let this stuff go until this comes to a bloody head. But I'm going to tell you, this isn't going to be like piercing or lancing a boil. This is going to be far, far worse. When this boil gets lanced, I got to tell you, it's going to be, because it's not a boil. See, this is a tumor that's inside the nation that is not the size of a lemon, not the size of a softball. This is a tumor inside the body of our nation that is the size of however many federal agencies that are out there of watermelons. And when you burst one, it's going to poison this country. It's going to create a civil war. And Hillary's doing her damnedest right now, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, to make sure that you don't have a gun to defend yourself and your family and your state and your nation. She declares that the gun laws are too lenient and that guns must be reined in. Really? Well, let me show you something, America. Well, all right, we're going to get into this topic right after this break. New Jersey, by the way, is following her orders explicitly, and their Senate committee has stated that or passed legislation that will prohibit the venerable .22 rifle, 43 different rifles, all the way from the Glenfield and the Marlin Model 60, the Nylon 66, and the Winchester 190, because they hold more than 10 rounds, even in a tube-fed magazine. I got to tell you, folks, how insane can we get? Why are we letting this happen? Why are we not tar and feathering the entire lot of them and ejecting them from the nation? Deport them. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. Communicate with me by sending me email to mike@americasvoicenow.org. That's mike@americasvoicenow.org. We'll be right back.